There comes a moment when you stop letting people control your life. You stop saying yes just to keep them happy. You stop explaining every decision. You stop seeking their approval and begin choosing your own peace. But instead of celebrating your growth, some people become uncomfortable. They may criticize you, make you feel guilty, spread misunderstandings, or try to pull you back into the person you used to be. Why? Because people who benefit from controlling you often struggle when they lose that control. The good news is that this is not a sign you are doing something wrong. It is often a sign that you are finally becoming free. Today we explore the 5 tactics people use when they can no longer control you, and how to stay peaceful, aware, and emotionally free. 1. They try to make you feel guilty. One of the first things people may do when they can no longer control you is try to make you feel guilty. They may remind you of what they once did for you. They may mention how much they have sacrificed. They may act hurt because you are no longer available in the same way. The mind can become confused in these moments because guilt often feels like proof that you have done something wrong. But awareness reveals that guilt is not always a sign of wrongdoing. Sometimes guilt appears because you are doing something unfamiliar. You may simply be choosing yourself after years of putting everyone else first. You may be setting a boundary where there was once unlimited access. You may be saying no where you once said yes out of fear. The uncomfortable feeling does not automatically mean you should return to the old pattern. It may simply mean you are learning to honor your own life. The mind often confuses guilt with responsibility. Responsibility means recognizing where your actions may have caused harm and being willing to respond with honesty. Guilt, however, can become something much heavier. It can become a tool that keeps you tied to situations that no longer bring peace. Someone may say, "After everything I have done for you," hoping that you will feel obligated to give up your own needs. Awareness reveals that kindness should never become a debt that can be used against you. A gift offered freely should remain free. Love offered genuinely should not become a chain around your heart. As you grow older, you may begin seeing the difference between a relationship built on care and a relationship built on emotional obligation. This clarity can free you from carrying burdens that were never truly yours. Sometimes people use guilt because they are afraid of losing the version of you that was easy to influence. They may say you are selfish because you stopped answering every call. They may say you have changed because you no longer solve their problems. They may accuse you of becoming distant because you stopped allowing their emotions to become your responsibility. Awareness reveals that their reaction may have less to do with who you are becoming and more to do with what they are losing. They may be losing access to your time, your attention, your energy, or your willingness to put yourself last. This does not make them evil. It simply shows that they are uncomfortable with change. You do not need to carry that discomfort for them. You can remain compassionate while also remaining clear. You may notice that guilt often arrives through small comments rather than direct demands. Someone may say that they never expected this from you. Someone may become quiet when you set a limit. Someone may compare you to the person you used to be, hoping you will feel ashamed of growing. The mind may begin replaying their words and questioning your decision. Awareness allows you to pause before reacting. You can ask yourself whether you truly acted without kindness, or whether someone is simply unhappy because your boundary affected them. These are two very different things. As you grow older, you learn that another person's disappointment does not automatically make your choice wrong. You are allowed to disappoint someone when the alternative is continuously abandoning yourself. There may be times when guilt comes from family expectations. Family can be deeply meaningful, but family patterns can also become powerful. You may have been taught that loyalty means always agreeing, always helping, or never creating distance. The mind may fear that choosing peace will be seen as betrayal. Awareness reveals that healthy love does not require you to lose your identity. You can care for family while still protecting your time. You can remain respectful while refusing to carry every emotional burden placed upon you. You can love people without allowing their expectations to control the direction of your life. As you grow older, you may begin understanding that maturity sometimes means becoming different from what others expected you to be. Guilt often becomes stronger when you keep explaining yourself. You may feel that if you give enough reasons, the other person will finally understand why you need space, or why you cannot keep doing everything for them. But some people do not want understanding, they want access. Awareness reveals that no amount of explanation can satisfy someone who has decided that your boundary is unacceptable. Presence teaches you to become simple. You can say what is true without defending it endlessly. You can remain calm without trying to convince everyone that your needs are valid. The more you trust your own inner clarity, the less power guilt has over you. Your peace does not need to be approved by every person who once benefited from your lack of boundaries. You may also notice that guilt can come from your own old beliefs. You may have learned that a good person must always be helpful, always forgiving, and always available. The mind may call you unkind whenever you choose rest, privacy, or distance. Awareness reveals that this belief has often been passed down through fear. True kindness includes you. True compassion does not require you to become exhausted in order to prove that you care. You are not selfish because you need time to breathe. You are not cruel because you stop accepting behavior that hurts you. You are not wrong because you choose peace over emotional chaos. When you begin treating yourself with the same care you offer others, guilt slowly loses its place in your life. There are moments when you may genuinely make mistakes while trying to set boundaries. You may speak too quickly. You may react from frustration. You may need to apologize for the way you expressed something. Awareness does not mean pretending you are perfect. It means seeing clearly. You can take responsibility for your words without returning to self-abandonment. You can apologize for unnecessary harshness without apologizing for having needs. This is an important distinction. The mind often wants to use one imperfect moment as proof that your boundary itself was wrong. But one difficult conversation does not erase your right to protect your peace. As you grow older, you become more able to correct your behavior without destroying your own self-respect. Some people will try to use your compassion against you. They know that you do not like seeing others hurt. They may cry, withdraw, become dramatic, or tell you that you are the reason they feel bad. Awareness reveals that you cannot take full responsibility for another person's emotional reaction. You can be gentle, you can be respectful, you can communicate honestly, but you cannot live your life trying to prevent every person from feeling disappointed. Everyone has their own inner world, their own wounds, and their own responses. The moment you begin carrying all of that for them, you lose contact with yourself. Freedom begins when you allow people to feel what they feel, without immediately making it your task to fix them. The mind may become afraid that if you stop feeling guilty, you will become careless or selfish. But awareness reveals the opposite. When guilt no longer controls you, your kindness becomes more sincere. You give because you want to give, not because you are afraid of being rejected. You help because you have the capacity, not because you fear being seen as bad. You care without secretly resenting the person you are helping. This creates healthier relationships because your love is no longer mixed with fear. As you grow older, you may discover that a calm boundary protects not only you, but also the relationship itself. It makes your yes more meaningful because it is no longer automatic. There may be people who continue trying to make you feel guilty even after you have become clear. They may not like your growth. They may keep returning to old stories because those stories once gave them power over you. In these moments, you do not need to become defensive. You can listen briefly, remain grounded, and refuse to re-enter the same emotional cycle. You do not need to explain your whole life again. You do not need to prove that you are a good person. Presence teaches you to stay with what is true now. You are allowed to grow beyond old roles. You are allowed to change your mind. You are allowed to stop giving what has been costing you your peace. As you become more aware, guilt begins to transform. It stops becoming a command and becomes information. You notice it without automatically obeying it. You ask whether it comes from genuine responsibility or from an old habit of people-pleasing. You learn to sit with the discomfort of disappointing others without immediately trying to remove it. This is not easy at first, but it becomes deeply freeing. You begin understanding that your life belongs to you. You can love people without becoming controlled by their emotions. You can be kind without becoming powerless. You can care without disappearing. In this awareness, guilt no longer pulls you backward. It becomes a signal that reminds you to return to your own truth. 2. They misunderstand you on purpose. When people cannot control you, they may stop trying to understand you. Instead, they may create a new story about you. They may say you are distant, cold, selfish, proud, or changed. They may act as though your decision to protect your peace is somehow an attack against them. The mind may feel a strong urge to correct every misunderstanding. You may want to explain your heart, your reasons, and your intentions until they finally see you clearly. But awareness reveals that not every misunderstanding comes from a lack of information. Some people misunderstand you because understanding you would require them to accept that you are no longer available in the old way. They may prefer the story that makes you wrong because it allows them to avoid looking at their own behavior. It can be painful when someone you cared about chooses a false image of you. You may remember all the times you tried to help them, the patience you showed, and the sacrifices you made. Then suddenly, because you set a boundary, they act as though you never cared. Awareness reveals that people often see you through their own needs and expectations. If you stop meeting those expectations, they may change the story of who you are. This does not mean that their story is true. It simply means that their perception is limited by what they wanted from you. As you grow older, you become less willing to destroy your peace, trying to control another person's view of you. The mind wants to be understood because being misunderstood can feel like rejection. It can feel as though someone is denying your goodness or erasing the truth of what you have given. But presence teaches you something deeper. You do not need every person to understand your journey in order for your journey to be real. You know why you needed to change. You know what was happening inside you. You know the exhaustion, the pressure, and the quiet loss of self that brought you to this point. Their inability to see it does not cancel your experience. As you grow older, you learn that your inner truth does not require constant public approval. It can remain quiet, grounded, and true even when others choose not to understand. Some people misunderstand you on purpose because it keeps other people on their side. They may speak about you in a way that makes them appear innocent and makes you appear harsh. They may leave out the parts of the story that reveal how much you gave, how long you tried, or how many times you stayed silent to keep the peace. Awareness reveals that this can happen when someone is unwilling to take responsibility for their own role in a relationship. They may need a person to blame so that they do not have to face their own choices. You do not need to enter every conversation to defend yourself. Your life does not need to become a campaign against every false story. As you grow older, you may realize that your actions speak more clearly than your explanations. You can continue living with integrity. You can remain respectful. You can avoid bitterness. You can choose peace. Over time, the people who truly know you will notice the difference between your character and the story someone is trying to tell about you. The people who are determined to believe the worst may continue believing it, no matter how carefully you explain. Awareness allows you to stop wasting energy where it cannot create understanding. You begin offering your truth to people who are capable of receiving it, and you stop carrying the burden of convincing everyone else. The mind often wants to react immediately when it hears that someone has misunderstood or misrepresented you. It may want to send a message, make a public statement, confront the person, or prove every detail. Awareness invites you to pause. Not every situation requires silence, but not every situation requires a reaction either. Before you respond, ask yourself whether your words will bring clarity or simply create another cycle of conflict. As you grow older, you begin learning that peace sometimes comes from choosing not to enter a conversation that is built on distortion. You can allow time to reveal what your explanations cannot. You can remain steady while others speak from emotion. Sometimes people will say that you have changed because they cannot accept that you have grown. They may use your past version as a weapon against your present self. They may say, "You were never like this before," hoping that you will feel ashamed and return to old behavior. Awareness reveals that change is not betrayal. You are allowed to become more aware. You are allowed to learn from pain. You are allowed to stop doing things that once harmed your peace. As you grow older, you may begin seeing change as a sign that life has taught you something valuable. You do not need to remain the same person simply because others were comfortable with that version of you. There may be moments when misunderstanding feels lonely. You may feel that no one sees the truth of your intentions, but solitude can also become a place of strength. In quiet moments, you can return to your own awareness. You can remember who you are without needing to hear it from others. You can notice that the mind wants to chase approval because it fears being alone with itself. Presence teaches you to remain with yourself instead. The more deeply you trust your own inner clarity, the less fear you feel when someone chooses a false version of you. You begin knowing that another person's opinion can move around you without becoming the foundation of your identity. Misunderstanding often becomes powerful only when you keep trying to control it. The more you argue with someone who has already decided not to see you clearly, the more you become trapped in their world. Awareness reveals that you do not need to live inside someone else's judgment. You can step back. You can stop explaining. You can allow your silence to become a form of dignity. This does not mean you are weak or defeated. It means you have recognized that your peace is more valuable than an argument that has no real ending. As you grow older, you begin choosing where your energy goes with greater wisdom. You may also learn that some people misunderstand you because they are projecting their own fears. They may accuse you of selfishness because they fear being left. They may accuse you of being cold because they are uncomfortable with boundaries. They may call you proud because they do not know how to relate to someone who no longer seeks approval. Awareness reveals that their words may tell you more about their inner world than about your character. You do not need to accept every label that someone places upon you. You can observe it, understand that it belongs to their perception, and return to yourself. The people who matter in your life will usually be willing to ask questions instead of creating assumptions. They may not always understand immediately, but they will be open to learning. They will not punish you for growing. They will not demand that you return to an unhealthy version of yourself just to make them comfortable. As you become more aware, you begin recognizing the difference between people who seek truth and people who seek control. This recognition helps you choose your relationships more carefully. You no longer have to remain close to everyone who has access to your life. There is freedom in allowing people to misunderstand you without turning it into your mission to correct them. You stop trying to manage every opinion. You stop carrying every false story. You stop allowing another person's limited view to create doubt inside you. You become more rooted in the truth that you know. Your actions become quieter. Your words become simpler. Your inner life becomes less crowded by the need to be seen perfectly. In this awareness, you begin living with greater dignity. You do not need everyone to understand you. You only need to remain honest with yourself. 3. They test your boundaries. The moment you begin setting boundaries, some people will test them. They may ask for more than before. They may push gently at first, hoping you will return to your old habits. They may ignore what you said, act confused, or create pressure around your decision. The mind may feel uncomfortable because boundaries are not always accepted immediately. But awareness reveals that a boundary becomes real through consistency. Saying no once is important, but continuing to honor that no is what teaches both you and others that your needs matter. You do not need anger. You do not need to become harsh. You simply need to become steady. People often test boundaries because they are used to a different version of you. They may not believe that you truly mean what you say. If you have always been available, they may assume that your no is only temporary. If you have always forgiven quickly, they may assume that you will return no matter what happens. Awareness reveals that your past behavior may have trained people to expect unlimited access. This does not mean you are responsible for their choices, but it does mean that change may require patience. As you grow older, you begin understanding that people need time to see that your new limits are not a mood. They are a new way of honoring your life. The mind often believes that a boundary must be explained until everyone agrees with it. But some people will use your explanations as openings to negotiate, argue, or pressure you. They may ask for more details. They may challenge your reasons. They may tell you that you are overreacting. Awareness reveals that a boundary does not become less real because someone dislikes it. You can state your decision clearly without creating a long argument around it. You can repeat yourself calmly. You can say, "I understand that you feel differently, but this is what I need." The more simple you become, the less space there is for manipulation. Sometimes boundaries are tested through urgency. Someone may make their request sound as though it must be answered immediately. They may say that nobody else can help them, that they need you right now, or that you are the only person who understands. The mind may panic and feel responsible. Awareness reveals that another person's urgency does not always need to become your emergency. You can pause. You can breathe. You can ask yourself whether you truly have the capacity to help. As you grow older, you begin recognizing that protecting your peace sometimes means allowing someone else to solve a problem without you. You are not required to become the rescuer every time someone feels overwhelmed. People may test your boundaries through emotional reactions. They may become quiet. They may act hurt. They may become angry. They may make you feel as though you have caused them pain simply by protecting yourself. Awareness reveals that their reaction belongs to them. You can care about how someone feels without allowing their feelings to control your decision. This is one of the hardest lessons because the mind often wants immediate peace. It wants to remove their discomfort so that the tension disappears. But temporary peace created by self-abandonment is not real peace. As you grow older, you become more able to stay grounded while another person experiences disappointment. You stop treating every uncomfortable emotion around you as a crisis that you must solve. A healthy boundary is not a punishment. It is not an attempt to control another person. It is simply a clear understanding of what you are willing and unwilling to accept in your life. Awareness reveals that boundaries protect connection when they are expressed honestly. Without boundaries, resentment grows quietly. You may continue giving while becoming more exhausted. You may stay silent while feeling unseen. Eventually, the hidden frustration may become larger than the original issue. Presence allows you to speak sooner and more clearly. You begin saying what is true before resentment has time to take over. This creates healthier relationships because people know where you stand. You may notice that certain people only respect boundaries when there are consequences. They may continue calling after you asked for space. They may keep speaking disrespectfully after you ask them to stop. They may ignore your limits because they believe you will eventually give in. Awareness reveals that words alone are sometimes not enough. A boundary may require action. You may need to leave a conversation, stop responding, reduce contact, or step away from a situation that repeatedly harms your peace. This does not mean you are being cruel. It means you are taking your own well-being seriously. As you grow older, you understand that a boundary without action can become only a wish. The mind may fear that holding a boundary will make you lose people. In some cases, it may. Some people may leave because they were comfortable only when you had no limits. This can hurt, especially if you cared deeply about them. But awareness reveals that losing a controlling connection can create space for healthier relationships. You begin seeing that not every person who leaves is a loss in the deepest sense. Some people leave because they cannot relate to you without power. Their departure may reveal that the relationship was not built on mutual respect. As painful as this may be, it can also become a form of freedom. There may be moments when you feel tempted to break your own boundary because you miss the person or want to avoid conflict. The mind may say that one small exception will not matter. Awareness reveals that exceptions can become old patterns again when they come from fear. You can be flexible when flexibility is healthy, but you do not need to become flexible whenever someone pressures you. As you grow older, you begin asking yourself whether you are changing your decision because it feels right or because you are afraid of the other person's reaction. This question can help you return to yourself before old habits take over. Boundaries also exist in small, everyday moments. They exist in how quickly you reply to messages, how much personal information you share, how long you stay in draining conversations, and how often you allow other people's emergencies to interrupt your peace. Awareness reveals that your energy is shaped by these small choices. You do not need a dramatic situation to begin respecting yourself. You can start with simple limits. You can take more time before responding. You can say that you need to rest. You can avoid conversations that always leave you emotionally exhausted. These small changes gradually create a more peaceful life. Some people will test your boundaries because they are testing whether you believe you deserve them. They may sense uncertainty in your voice. They may recognize the old part of you that still feels guilty for saying no. Awareness reveals that your boundary becomes stronger when it is rooted in self-respect rather than anger. You do not need to prove anything to anyone. You simply need to remember that your peace matters. As you grow older, you begin standing more quietly in your decisions. You no longer need to fight for your right to have limits. You simply live them. The more you keep your boundaries with calmness, the more your inner life changes. You begin trusting yourself. You begin seeing that you can survive other people's disappointment. You begin discovering that no is not a dangerous word. It is simply a word that protects what is important to you. This trust becomes deeply healing because you are no longer abandoning yourself whenever someone asks for more than you can give. You become your own safe place. And when you become your own safe place, it becomes much harder for others to control you through pressure, fear, or guilt. 4. They withhold approval. Some people know that your need for approval once gave them power over you. They may have praised you when you obeyed, supported you when you agreed, and made you feel valuable when you were easy to influence. But when you begin choosing your own path, they may become cold, distant, or silent. They may stop giving the attention they once gave you. The mind can become unsettled by this change. It may wonder what you did wrong. It may want to return to pleasing them just to feel accepted again. Awareness reveals that this is often one of the oldest forms of control, making your sense of worth depend on another person's approval. You may notice that silence can become powerful when you interpret it as rejection. Someone becomes distant, and the mind quickly begins creating stories. It may say they no longer care. It may say you have made a mistake. It may say you need to do something quickly to restore the connection. Awareness reveals that silence is not always a message about your worth. Sometimes it is simply another person's way of expressing discomfort, disappointment, or an attempt to regain control. Presence invites you not to rush into the empty space. You can allow silence to exist without immediately filling it with apologies, explanations, or people-pleasing. As you grow older, you may begin noticing how much energy you once spent trying to be approved of. You may have changed your opinions, softened your truth, or hidden your needs because you wanted certain people to remain happy with you. The mind may have believed that approval meant safety. Awareness reveals that approval is unstable when it depends on your obedience. It can disappear the moment you begin living honestly. Real peace cannot be built on something that another person can withdraw whenever you stop pleasing them. You begin becoming free when your sense of value comes from your own awareness rather than from someone else's changing mood. Some people use praise and withdrawal in the same way a person might use a reward and punishment. When you do what they want, they become warm. When you do not, they become cold. The mind may become trained to chase the warmth and avoid the coldness. Awareness reveals that this can create a painful emotional cycle. You begin living according to what will bring back their approval, rather than according to what is true for you. As you grow older, you may become more conscious of this pattern. You begin asking whether someone's affection feels free or conditional. You begin noticing whether their kindness remains when you disagree, need space, or make choices they do not control. Withholding approval can also happen through criticism. Someone may constantly find fault with your decisions, your personality, or your growth. They may make you feel as though nothing you do is enough. The mind may begin trying harder and harder to prove itself. Awareness reveals that you cannot earn peace from someone who has decided to keep you uncertain. No matter how much you improve, they may continue moving the line. As you grow older, you begin seeing that their criticism may not be guidance. It may be a way of keeping you dependent on their judgment. You do not need to become perfect in order to deserve respect. You do not need to prove your worth to someone who benefits from you doubting it. You may notice that approval seeking often keeps you from hearing your own inner voice. You become so focused on what others think that you stop asking what you truly feel. You may make choices based on whether someone will praise them rather than whether they bring peace into your life. Awareness reveals that this is a quiet form of self-abandonment. Presence invites you back to yourself. Before asking for someone else's opinion, pause and listen inwardly. What do you know? What feels honest? What brings you a sense of quiet clarity? As you grow older, this inner listening becomes more valuable than applause. You begin building a life that feels right, even when it is not understood by everyone. Sometimes the hardest approval to release is from the people closest to you. You may want your family to be proud. You may want a partner to validate your choices. You may want friends to understand the person you are becoming. These desires are natural. Awareness does not ask you to deny them. It simply asks you not to become controlled by them. You can love people and still choose a direction they do not fully understand. You can appreciate their support without making it the foundation of your identity. As you grow older, you begin allowing people to have their opinions while keeping your own inner center intact. The mind may fear that without approval, life will feel lonely, but awareness reveals that there is a deep difference between being alone and being free. When you stop chasing approval, you may experience a period of quiet. Some people may become distant because they no longer receive the version of you they wanted. This can feel painful, yet within that quiet, you begin discovering a more stable connection with yourself. You begin enjoying your own company without constantly needing someone to confirm that you are enough. You begin seeing that peace can exist even when no one is clapping for your choices. You may also discover that the people who truly respect you do not need to control your life in order to remain close. They may not agree with every decision, but they do not punish you for being yourself. They do not make love feel like something you must earn. Awareness helps you recognize this difference. You begin valuing relationships where you can speak honestly, rest freely, and make choices without fear of losing all affection. As you grow older, you become less impressed by attention that disappears when you have boundaries. You begin valuing steadiness, respect, and quiet acceptance. Withholding approval only works when you believe someone else has the authority to decide your worth. The moment you begin seeing yourself clearly, the old pattern weakens. You may still feel sadness when someone becomes cold. You may still wish that they understood you, but you no longer abandon yourself in order to bring back their warmth. You become able to feel the loss without returning to the cage. This is a powerful kind of freedom. You stop chasing the approval that once controlled you, and you begin creating a life that feels honest from the inside. As you become more grounded, you may notice that other people's praise also has less power over you. You can appreciate kindness without becoming dependent on it. You can receive love without fearing that it may disappear tomorrow. You can enjoy being seen without making being seen your only source of joy. This creates emotional balance. You are no longer lifted too high by approval or destroyed by disapproval. You become more stable because your inner state is not constantly controlled by external reactions. Freedom begins when your self-worth is no longer a negotiation. You do not need to earn your right to exist peacefully. You do not need to become useful, perfect, silent, or easy in order to deserve respect. You are allowed to be yourself. You are allowed to grow. You are allowed to make choices that others do not celebrate. The more you accept this, the less power approval has over you. You begin living from awareness rather than validation, and this becomes one of the deepest forms of inner freedom. 5. They reveal their true nature. Perhaps the greatest gift of all is that when people can no longer control you, they often reveal who they really are. Before you set boundaries, someone may appear kind, close, or supportive, but when you begin saying no, they may become distant, angry, manipulative, or dismissive. The mind may feel shocked because you believed the relationship was built on care. Awareness reveals that pressure often brings hidden patterns to the surface. A person's response to your boundary can show you whether they respect you or only respect the version of you they could control. This does not mean you must hate them. It simply means you begin seeing more clearly. You may notice that some people are only warm when you are useful to them. They are affectionate when you agree, generous when you obey, and close when you make their life easier. But when you begin having your own needs, they may withdraw. Awareness reveals that this kind of closeness is often conditional. It depends not on who you are, but on what you provide. As you grow older, you may begin recognizing that real care remains even when you cannot give everything. A healthy person may be disappointed by a boundary, but they will not punish you for it. They will not make you feel guilty for protecting yourself. They will not turn your growth into a personal attack. Sometimes the truth of a relationship becomes visible only when you stop trying to keep it alive alone. You may have been the one calling, checking in, apologizing, explaining, forgiving, and making the effort. When you stop doing all of that, the relationship may suddenly become quiet. The mind may feel sad, but awareness reveals something important. You may not have lost a balanced relationship. You may have simply stopped carrying it by yourself. As you grow older, this realization can be painful and freeing at the same time. It allows you to stop blaming yourself for connections that only existed because you were doing all the emotional work. Some people reveal their true nature through how they speak about you after you set a boundary. They may create stories. They may describe you as cold, selfish, or changed. They may try to gain support from others by presenting themselves as the victim. Awareness reveals that this behavior often comes from discomfort with losing influence. They may not know how to accept that you are no longer willing to be controlled. You do not need to enter every story they create. You do not need to become a different person just to protect your image. As you grow older, you begin learning that your character is revealed through how you live, not through how everyone talks about you. There may also be people who reveal something beautiful when you become stronger. They may respect your boundaries even if they do not fully understand them. They may give you space without making you feel guilty. They may support your growth instead of fearing it. Awareness helps you notice these people too. It is not only about seeing who brings control into your life. It is also about recognizing who brings peace. As you grow older, you may begin valuing these relationships more deeply. You learn that true love does not demand that you remain small. True friendship does not require you to abandon yourself. Genuine connection allows both people to grow. Sometimes a person's true nature is not cruel but wounded. They may react badly because they fear abandonment, feel insecure, or do not know how to relate without control. Awareness allows you to see this without excusing harmful behavior. You can understand that someone is struggling while still choosing distance. Compassion does not mean staying in situations that repeatedly damage your peace. As you grow older, you may learn that you can care about someone from afar. You can wish them well without allowing them unlimited access to your life. This is a mature kind of love. It does not come from hatred. It comes from clarity. The mind may want to hold on to the old image of someone even after their behavior has changed. You may remember the good moments, the promises, or the version of them you hoped would return. Awareness reveals that hope can become painful when it keeps you attached to what is no longer real. Presence brings you back to what is happening now. How do they treat you now? How do you feel after speaking with them? Do you feel more peaceful, more respected, and more connected to yourself? Or do you feel anxious, guilty, and emotionally exhausted? These questions can help you see beyond memory and into truth. When people reveal their true nature, the mind may become bitter. It may say that nobody can be trusted or that all relationships are unsafe. Awareness reveals that bitterness is another form of pain trying to protect itself. You do not need to close your heart because some people did not treat you well. You simply become wiser about where you place your trust. You begin moving more slowly. You observe actions over time. You listen to how your body feels around certain people. You stop giving deep access to those who have not shown deep respect. This is not fear, it is discernment. As you grow older, you may begin seeing that people often reveal themselves when they no longer get what they want. A person may be respectful when everything goes their way, but their true capacity for love becomes visible when you disagree, say no, or choose a different path. Do they become threatening? Do they withdraw affection? Do they blame you? Or do they remain respectful even when they are disappointed? Awareness allows you to learn from these moments. You stop judging people only by their words and begin noticing how they behave when they are not in control. Sometimes the revelation is not about them alone. It is also about you. You may realize how much you accepted because you feared being alone. You may see how often you ignored your own discomfort to keep a relationship alive. You may recognize the old part of yourself that believed love had to be earned through sacrifice. Awareness does not ask you to shame yourself for this. It asks you to learn. As you grow older, you become more compassionate toward the version of yourself that did not know how to protect its peace. You begin choosing differently, not because you hate your past, but because you now see more clearly. There is peace in allowing people to reveal themselves without trying to force them to become different. You may have spent years hoping someone would finally understand, change, apologize, or begin treating you with respect. Awareness reveals that you cannot control another person's growth. You can only decide what you will accept in your own life. This realization can feel sad because it means releasing certain hopes, but it can also feel freeing because you stop waiting for someone else to become the reason you are allowed to have peace. You begin choosing your life based on reality rather than potential. The more aware you become, the less you need to hate people who reveal their limitations. You can simply see them. You can understand that their behavior belongs to them. You can stop carrying anger as though it is your responsibility to punish them for what they did. You can choose distance, clarity, and self-respect without becoming bitter. This is one of the most peaceful forms of freedom. You do not need to destroy anyone in your mind. You simply stop allowing them to control your inner world. When people reveal their true nature, let it become information, not a reason to lose yourself. Let it show you where you need stronger boundaries. Let it show you which relationships are mutual and which ones are built on control. Let it remind you that peace is more valuable than being accepted by everyone. You do not need to become hard. You only need to become clear. And in that clarity, you begin creating a life with people who respect your growth rather than fear it. When people can no longer control you, their reactions are not always about you. Often, they are responding to the loss of control they once had. Do not let this pull you back into fear, guilt, or people-pleasing. Stay calm, stay present, keep protecting your peace, without anger and without the need to prove yourself. The more aware you become, the less power other people's behavior has over your inner world. Your greatest freedom begins the moment you stop allowing others to control how you think, how you feel, and who you choose to become.